Do you have someone in your contact list that you always have to message first? Or maybe that's actually you, sitting there, phone in hand, scrolling endlessly, but just can't bring yourself to hit send. This isn't laziness. This isn't about not caring. There's real psychology behind why this happens. And by the end of this video, you'll finally understand what's actually going on inside your brain. Let's talk about the first reason. And honestly, this one is the most common. You simply don't know what to say. Psychologists have found that many people avoid texting first because they genuinely can't find the right words. When someone messages you, the topic is already there. They've done the hard part. All you have to do is respond. But starting from a completely blank screen, that's a whole different level of mental effort. Cognitive psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains this through what he calls System 2 thinking, the kind of thinking that requires real, focused effort. Your brain starts firing questions. What if I say something wrong? What if I come across as boring? What if they think I'm being weird for reaching out? So instead of taking that risk, you just don't text at all. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Now, the second reason hits a little deeper. You are protecting yourself from rejection. Psychologist Geraldine Downey discovered something called rejection sensitivity, where your brain interprets even small things, like someone not replying quickly, as complete rejection. And here's what's actually wild. Research shows that for rejection-sensitive people, being ignored over text activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain. So when you don't text first, you're not being difficult. You're literally trying to protect yourself from something your brain experiences as getting hurt. You wait for the other person to reach out first, so they prove they care before you take that risk. But here's the problem. The more you avoid initiating, the more people slowly pull away. And eventually, you end up facing the exact rejection you were trying to avoid. The third reason is a little interesting because it's actually about control. Psychologists call this a dominant strategy. You see relationships through a give and take lens. They text, then you text. This isn't manipulation. It's usually a behavior you picked up from environments where control meant safety. Maybe you grew up somewhere chaotic and learned that being the one who responds, not the one who initiates, gave you a sense of power over how and when you engaged. But in real life, this completely backfires. People sense that you're holding back and they move on. The person trying to stay in control ends up completely alone. The fourth reason is something a lot of us can relate to right now. You are overwhelmed and mentally exhausted. By the time you've gone through Instagram, handled emails, dealt with work stress, and figured out your day, your brain is already running on empty. Sending the first message feels like just one more thing on an already endless list. So you tell yourself you'll do it later, when you have more energy. But that later never actually comes because you're always tired. And finally, the fifth reason, and this one might explain you better than anything else. You have an avoidant attachment style. Research by Druin and Landgraf found that people with avoidant attachment styles text significantly less, especially in romantic relationships. They need time and space to process emotional interactions. Here's what happens. The anxious person texts more and more, waiting desperately for a response, and you pull back even further. It becomes a toxic cycle. And a 2017 study by Halpern and Katz actually found that more texting leads to more conflict and less real intimacy over time. So if you never text first and you relate to this, you are not broken. Your nervous system simply needs space. But you have to learn to communicate that instead of going completely silent and leaving people confused. Here's the truth that nobody really talks about. Not texting first doesn't make you a bad person. But if it's costing you relationships you actually value, or if you're sitting alone wishing people would reach out while never reaching out yourself, that's worth paying attention to. The question isn't whether you should always text first or never text first. The real question is, are you choosing this consciously, Or is fear, exhaustion, and old pain making that choice for you? Because once you truly understand the psychology behind it, you get to decide. Do you want to change it, or are you completely fine exactly as you are? If this gave you a brand new way of looking at your own texting habits, make sure you subscribe to Mind Decoded. We don't do generic advice here. We break down the psychology that actually explains your life.